Welcome back. In this demonstration, we're going to put the windows on our second row of buildings here in the background. Okay, notice I have the first row of buildings, the windows are all finished. And in this second row of windows, I want to do the same thing. I want to make a variety of black and white mixed together to make tints and shades of gray. All right, remember we talked about monochromatic colors. We talked about making a value scale of gray using just black and white, and then making tall columns of windows that are all lined up and horizontal rows of windows that are all lined up as well. To get started, you should have your palette. You should have maybe a small easel brush, the 1/4-inch easel brush, and then we're going to have a little detail brush out. And this is for making your windows very small on your back buildings. You should have a clean cup of water, an empty cup of water, and then your little bitty water cup to wash your brushes in. If you're right-handed, you have all your supplies on your right-hand side. If you're left-handed, you would have all your supplies on your left-hand side, so you're not dribbling over your painting as you're trying to get different colors and stuff. And then have a paper towel next to you to blot your brush on if you need to. Okay, to get started, I'm going to put white and black on my palette, so do that. And then you're going to mix those together. I'm going to just take a little teeny bit of the black and mix it into my white so that I can get a light tint of gray here. All right, you can see that tint of gray. And I'm just going to mix up my pile. Make sure you mix it thoroughly so it's all one even color and we don't have smears of black and smears of white, right? We want to have a nice even color when we work that. I'm going to set this one aside. I'm not even going to wash it off. I'm just going to set it aside. And I'm going to get my little teeny brush here and kind of fill my brush up. And I'm going to use this, again, one little blob to make each window. So if I start over here, I'm going to start over on this side so I can work left to right and not smear my hand through any wet paint. I'm just going to take this brush and really try to make smaller windows. You make windows however big you need to make them. The first ones on the top I'm going to make kind of big just to fill that space. But then underneath it I'm just going to make smaller windows. Try to have your windows nice and regular. Okay, so that they look the same, and notice that after doing about 1 or 2 windows I have to go back and get a little bit more paint to fill my brush up, because if you try to make too many windows you're not going to have any paint left on your brush. Alright, and now this might take a while, but if you can just use your brush and do one blob for each window, being careful, you'll be able to fill in that space quite nicely. And the pattern of the windows and the repetition that you create will make a really nice painting. Alright, and the point here is getting the repetition of those windows to look nice. And if you do it fairly evenly, people won't notice a little mistake here or there. I mean, my building windows here are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But having the repetition, the human mind that's looking at this will see that, oh yeah, those are supposed to be windows all in a little row. If you're having trouble doing this, one thing you might want to do is set your hand down on the table and then put your other hand on top and then hold your brush straight up and down. That'll give you a little bit more control, and then that will make things a little bit easier. And if you just take like one stroke, you'll be able to maybe get that easier. I'm going to put one row of thinner windows here, and you can see how my brush gets dried out just after 2 windows there. Not following my own rule of going back for every window. Okay, now I'm just going to quietly finish my windows on my building here. Okay, now that I'm finished with that building, I'm going to use a little bit more black here. And I'm going to turn this gray just a little bit darker for my next building. Okay, you can notice how that gray on the palette there is a little bit darker. And I'm just going to do this one. Okay, now I'm going to get even a little darker yet. And now I'm going to go back to white and make a really light tint because this is my darkest building. And so I'm going to make a really light tint of windows for this one. And I'm going to make circles on this one just because. Okay. Good. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to do this one in a little bit darker shade, since it's a light tinted building. Okay, so that is finishing the second row of buildings. Notice that we used dark shades, light tints, medium tints, and then light tints again. Once you're done, make sure you wash your brush out, you clean up all your supplies nicely. Notice I didn't wash my brush out once that whole time. I just kind of slightly adjusted my color as I went. And look at how clean my palette is over there even. I didn't make that much of a mess. So again, remember we're talking about tints and shades, monochromatic colors, and that is what your first row of buildings should look like and your second row of buildings should look like with the different tints and shades in for the windows.